Alright. Okay. Hopefully third time lucky. Right, is everyone there? Can everyone hear me loud and clear? How is the connection? I won't start until I've got everyone's approval. See, I've got two viewers at the moment. How are we looking, guys? Post away in the comments section. That's good to hear, Ash. Thank you. All right. Okay, let's move on to the actual presentation and talk now. Thanks for bearing with me. I appreciate. Excellent. Thanks, Ash. Awesome. All right. Thanks for your patience as well if you were on earlier. Just sort of again, this is something that's been totally new for me, so yeah. Awesome. So we got some questions straight up. So why are people fearful of the bronze sharks? That is a really good question, and something that I look forward to asking in your answering a question rather in more detail a bit later on. I would say, Stephanie, that people are more so fearful of bronze whaler sharks because of their size, if anything, and their habits of going inshore for a feed. But apart from that, I would say the bronze whaler is not a shark I would overly be concerned about. Just generally speaking, in terms of overall its relationship with humans or interaction with humans in the water. So going into this presentation, I started by speaking about Sharkwatch itself and how it started. So I'm out on the water quite a lot myself, and when I was in year 12, I came up with the idea of Sharkwatch to really guided on a regular real-time basis, and to have that real-time basis of shark sightings, there wasn't really much out there at all, apart from the odd Facebook forum here and there. The Purser Shark Sightings log, which is where I obtain a lot of my information from. With all due respect, it's while it's great to be informed about where the sharks are seen all around the state, and I think it's important to archive that information about the locality of sharks. It wasn't on a real-time scale, and it still to this day is quite delayed in terms of how soon we're getting the information on that domain, that public domain. Now that's not doing Purser any of a discredit. Purser Fishwatch, a fantastic organisation in itself, and I've been able to obtain a bit of advice and information from some fisheries officers myself. So that was one of the outlets that's been around for quite some time. That's most definitely a reliable source because of its reputation and the professionals and the expertise behind that organisation itself. But yeah, there was nothing on a real time scale where we can actually where at the time I could actually come across this information, almost on a in real time. And for me, I know that going to the beach, I most definitely understand, like so many of you, that we're entering their domain, and that's the risk that we take, and we just don't know, when unfortunate interactions are going to happen between sharks and humans, such as the unpredictable nature of incidents involving humans and sharks. But if we can just minimize the chances of having an interaction in the first place by pinpointing whereabouts the sharks are at a certain time in such an expansive Gulf, or that we accompany here in South Australia, with the St. Vincent Gulf, the Spencer Gulf, and obviously the Fleurieu Peninsula, Eyre Peninsula, and on the south coast down on the Coorong, we have such a dominant population of white sharks and of many other marine species as well that can be considered as potentially dangerous to humans. So for me, it was always having that understanding that I was going into their environment. But of course, we understand that the gulfs itself and the bodies of water that we accompany are so large and diverse that we just don't know, how many sharks are in one particular location at any one time. So it's getting that word of mouth out there that becomes really effective with Sharkwatch, and that's where the whole ideation stemmed from. That's where the whole idea came from. I was struggling in year 12 in terms of my motivation to really put my foot forward in terms of being a real academic student. Didn't really have much direction at that time. So, for me, the ocean has always been a great place of meditation, and I've had many great experiences on the coast. And so I thought, it would be fantastic if I could do something around sharks. And having that question in the back of my mind about where the sharks were, there was always that intrigue about sharks. Are they really such a threat to humans in comparison to what the media makes them out to be? These were all really important questions that I wanted to research more. And there wasn't really much information I could find on sharks here in South Australia locally, apart from obviously the tourism organisations that are out doing the shark cage diving. Apart from basic information, again, from the reliable resource of Pursa Fishwatch and their own shark sightings log, and some fantastic visual information regarding the species of sharks here found in South Australia. And so I thought, running on the idea at the time that the shark cull would have been such a massive problem in Western Australia with the culling of white sharks. At the time, there were a number of, I'm not going to use the word attacks, I'm going to use the word incidents between sharks and humans and surfers and whatnot. There were quite some serious incidents, some fatalities, and the government decided that they were going to take action, which of course led to the unfortunate decision of the shark cull. And so I thought, what better means of preventing shark attacks and shark and human interactions, and such a simple idea of alerting people through a social media outlet. And this was an idea that where I sought innovation from the Western Australian Twitter feed, which was using tag sharks and acoustic receiver buoys, where sharks were actually registering were pinging off certain locations at popular local Perth beaches and beyond that in WA, and that they were getting out real-time shark sightings to the public in a fast and effective way. And so I decided to replicate that with the Shark Watch campaign that I've started and been running now for the past 9 years. So it's funny because Shark Watch always was in the back of my mind as something that I wanted to do, and the fact that I got to apply that to the research project really sparked something inside of me, and it turned out to be a great success. I think academically at the time, for someone who was struggling, I utilized the passion that I had and turned that into something that became a real success in terms of how far it's come with the engagement of the public, at least. Depending on what sort of angle you want to call it successful, I at least see that the fact that I've got such a large user base really shows that people do value this information and potentially do find it life-saving. So after starting Shark Watch, it's led me to where I am today, just sort of managing it more or less on more of a casual or part-time basis. There really isn't much work going on behind the scenes in terms of future planning and working with other organisations on the side. It's more or less owned and operated by the community, and it's bringing forth information for the community's use. There really isn't much scientific work or research that's going on behind the scenes. I've sort of compiled my own observations and over time, come to an understanding of what to expect around certain times of the year. But I think it's a great citizen science project. The stories that I've been able to tell and the people that I've come across have been nothing short of amazing. The journey itself has been one that I'll forever look back on it and cherish, and it's really grown me into the person that I am today. It's given me a lot of qualities that have definitely been for the better. So from the early days, it started off with a few public sightings, asked around for a couple of groups to share my page, and a few thousand likes came up. That's credit to Metro Shark Sightings in Perth, which in 2014, I don't know if they're still around to this day, but back in 2014 they were a real success locally. So I got a few thousand likes there, and it wasn't until one day when it was August in 2015 that I got a sighting from Port Augusta of a boater who had encountered a great white with a crab net, and from there organically I got 30,000 views on that one post, and I thought at the time that was something special. Obviously I could see the potential coming through, and that's when it really started to kick off, and then it sort of got the ball rolling from there. As soon as I got those few thousand followers going, and then had a bit of a community to build on. And obviously the demographics, it's all a real body of people, of water loving enthusiasts that are on Shark Watch. So the content started streaming in on a more consistent basis, and it got into 2016, and over that summer period I got absolutely smashed with something on the lines of around 200 public sightings, and I managed to log just about all of them. And still being young and in my youth at the time, there were things that there were sightings that I probably should have let go. There are a lot of inconsistencies. Sharkwatch was very unreliable. Some may still say that Sharkwatch is unreliable today. So it's all been a massive learning process, and I've had to adopt a certain system to make sure the legitimacy of Sharkwatch continues improving. But after that, it was the media that was so heavily involved with Sharkwatch in terms of sharing all of the videos, all of the photos on the page. I had a couple of gigs on the news where I managed to get interviewed, which, these are all fantastic things in terms of, getting some sort of public relations. I was growing in that facet or that area of expertise, if you like. After this in 2019, I had probably the biggest opportunity of my life come through. That was with Drone Co, a pioneering local drone organization, and it was a AI artificial intelligence shark spotting project that at the time was supposedly affiliated with the government. However, don't quote me on whatever I'm bringing up tonight. This is where I got to play with some really awesome technology in terms of shark spotting. A drone attached to a massive helium balloon known as a helikite, tethered to one location, which at the time got around the drone laws regarding the Adelaide Airport radius and not being able to fly drones in that particular space. With this particular instrument, we were able to get around that, and it turned out to being a fantastic, a real fun, I should say, project, and one that had serious potential, and things just never eventuated with it, unfortunately. And the thing is, when you're playing around with artificial intelligence, and you have some serious resources, and you have the right people. South Australia at the time, with this particular project that was in the pipeline, was, this was going to be something special, and Sharkwatch was going to be that outlet of information where we could have got real-time surveillance of sharks and broadcast it live on the Facebook page. This was something that was going to be almost a world-first exclusive. And with technology like this, you can branch out into all different areas. You can branch out into all different fields. It becomes highly marketable, but not so much in terms of the business side of things. Looking more so much into the safety side of things, it was a real game changer. Just quickly, I'll answer Jade's question. Yes, that's a good question, Jade. I have more so kept Sharkwatch to be something that's uniquely South Australian. I've been offered to have the page brought out and to be rebranded, and I declined that call because I wanted to keep Sharkwatch uniquely South Australian, for the specific reason that I saw the potential that South Australia has for ecotourism in terms of getting people out and about in the water. And I'm not talking about getting people diving with sharks necessarily, and most definitely not without a cage at least. I'm talking about promoting our beautiful beaches and the water, and the fact that, healthy oceans need sharks. It's more of a conservative outlook that I've focused on. But in terms of reaching out to other states, that's something that I've left more to with my partners with Dorsal, the Dorsal Shark Reports app. So they're an Australian-wide app now. And I think at the end of the day, it definitely did cross my mind to reach out into other states, but at the end of the day, I think to keep it uniquely South Australian is what I wanted for the promotional side of things for South Australia, to really benefit this state at least. Cool. So moving on. Some of the stories I've had have been amazing. How it works, how the system works with Sharkwatch is pretty straightforward. when there's a shark sighting that's sent to Sharkwatch, whether you're reporting to our website, to my website, whether you're looking at going into the Facebook page or direct messaging, the Instagram, or you're giving me a phone call, which is a highly effective means, the phone call, or you're going by email and sending through your photos or videos through there. What happens is, I'll ask first and foremost to get a photo or video of the shark that's present, and then from there I'm able to confirm, what species the shark was, how big the shark was, what direction it was last seen heading, whether or not it was close enough to shore that we really need to treat it with a degree of due diligence and alert the authorities. But if you're on dorsal, if you're reporting through dorsal, I'll see your reports through there as well. I'm the SA moderator for the dorsal app. So I'll give you a brief rundown of what this looks like from an administrative point of view, from a moderator's point of view on dorsal. So what will happen is, this is from the admin's perspective. I'll get a report come through on, I don't know if you guys can see that. It's like an awaiting approval section. From there, I'm able to see, if the user lets us, of course, where their location is, to see if they're actually genuinely telling the truth about the shark sighting. And then I'll give them a call with their contact details, maybe send them an email and just confirm things and try and get those photos and videos that are just so priceless up onto the social media Sharkwatch pages, so that way you guys can distinguish whether or not you can do your own sort of delegating between one another on what you think the right action would be after, which usually is to avoid the area. I say at least. Yeah, thanks, Shade. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I've told a study group in FNQ, Crockwatch. Awesome. Thank you so much. I haven't personally heard of Crockwatch, but that I'm sure that is something great in itself. Far North Queensland. Now, not to bore you guys, I've had so many amazing stories. Does anyone have any questions regarding the overall process, the story of Sharkwatch itself so far? I'm curious to know. I'll just leave the chat for a moment. All right. So some of the stories I've had on Sharkwatch have been amazing stories. Truthfully, exhilarating. If there's one thing I can take out of running Sharkwatch, what I can say to you is that the best part about running it is getting a phone call from someone who's just seen a great white, or someone who's just seen some incredible species of shark they've never seen before, never encountered on the water, and they are just they are freaking out. It's just the most incredible thing. Okay, Ash has got a question. What happened when you lost access to the original page? Did you end up getting most of the followers back? Yeah, so everyone's gradually filtering over. So I've lost it since April now. Everyone's slowly, organically starting to come back. So there's been no promoting. I haven't put any money into advertising this page. Everyone's just sort of organically filtering their way back, which is great, because everyone seems to be tagging their friends and family, and I'm seeing the same faces come back as well, or the same names at least on all the posts, which is good. So at the moment, sitting on 8,000 followers, Ash, and if we can get back up to the 150,000, that would be amazing. But it's just going to take a lot of time, and yeah, hopefully Facebook doesn't kick us off again. But yeah, Jade, did you get to see any CSI arrow stats on our visits to our beaches? No, I haven't. As a matter of fact, if you have that information on you and you want to forward it to me, if you want to send an email, I can promise I'll have a quick squiz at that and just, yeah, it'd be fascinating to see that. Okay, Zoe, do the spotter planes and helicopters flying over Grange report sightings to shark watchers? There's been so many sirens going off, but no reports. Great question. And I was going to get onto that as well. The thing about that is, no, I actually aren't in any contact whatsoever with the aerial shark patrol, neither with Surf Life Saving and the Westpac Rescue Helicopter, or with the aerial fixed wing patrol, which is that Cessna plane you see going past. So that's been something that over the years I've just sort of knocked on their door, and haven't actually been able to. We haven't actually been able to string something together. But look, I've got a tremendous amount of respect for those guys and their resources, and it's something that I think needs to happen. We really need to get real-time reports, from those resources onto Sharkwatch. I think so, at least. But no, to answer your question, no affiliation with those planes. I purely rely on the members of the public to hand in that information. So good question, Zoe. Thank you. Yes, there's been a lot of shark sightings reported down south as well. There's been a few at Aldinga. The Cessna's going around and he's doing laps at Aldinga, every few days a week in the summer, I've heard. What's quite interesting, I'll say this from my own observation at least, and again, don't quote me on anything that I'm bringing out here, because I by no means am an expert in terms of the sharks and what they do around the coast, and I have no biological sort of background. I don't have a marine biology degree. I'm just simply a member of the public who has these observations. But what I've noticed is bronze whaler sharks are the species of sharks. Bronze and dusky whaler sharks will tend to congregate in one certain area, and they will just sit there for a period of days or weeks at a time, sometimes even months at a time. They will just hang around a certain area. Other times they will just be, cruising through the area. But I've noticed that it isn't uncommon for them to just hang around a certain place, and they'll just be in that same area for a matter of weeks and months at a time. So it very well could be that, the spotter plane here is reporting a bronze whaler that's just sitting in the same area. And that's where it would be great to have these reports on a more consistent basis, where we know what species of sharks being sighted at, say, Aldinga or Normanville or Lady Bay, and what size it is, so we can we can string a few dots together and realise that, okay, it's probably the same shark that's hanging around, or number of bronzies that are schooling around the area. At least it's not it's not a 4 meter great white that's patrolling through the area and hasn't left. Which I find is something that we all seem to stress the most about, understandably so. Now, in terms of Sharkwatch and its effectiveness, if this is something that you guys want to hear about, or you folks want to hear about, I've had a lot of incidences where we can confirm that there's sorry, I'm just getting a message through on Facebook. That I've had a number of incidents or reports come through where fishermen or boaters have seen sharks, and it's been too early in the morning where there's no patrols out yet, or the shark spotter plane's not up in the air yet, and that's how we know that Sharkwatch is effective. Not to try and sell my campaign to anyone, but getting really what makes Sharkwatch effective is having the sightings come through on a real-time scale, and of course also during times between a 16-hour and 24-hour period when we're able to monitor sharks on a more regular time scale throughout the day and evening. Yeah, absolutely. I agree that it would definitely be good to coordinate those efforts with Sharkwatch for sure. Just give me a moment, guys. I'm just going to switch the light on in the room here. Okay. Thank you so much, Sammy. I really love hearing that. And you know what? That's what's kept me on. That's what's kept me running Sharkwatch for so long now. It's actually having people like yourself who, show so much love and support. I really appreciate it. I honestly don't know, where Sharkwatch would be if it wasn't for people like the public like yourself. Just give me one moment again. I'm just going to fix. Okay. All right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So can you guys see me clearly as well? Just want to make sure that I haven't darkened the room too much. And as well, is my coverage good? Can you guys hear? Can you folks hear me loudly and clearly as well? Yeah, awesome, awesome. All right, fantastic. Yeah, so I mean, I've had, there was one particular incident in 2017. A lot of long-time Sharkwatch followers may have heard of this incident when when there was a report that came through. Where a girl was flung from her kayak at Normanville. The thing about that sighting in particular was on that day, early in the morning, I received a report come through from a boater who reported quite a large white shark, a great white, close to the cliffs off Warina, and I wasn't able to follow up with the process to give him a confirmation call until 2 p.m. that afternoon because the coverage was dropping out, I presume. And so after this, I then confirmed at the time that we heard that he did mention that it was a large shark. We were able to confirm that. He said that there was a kayaker near the cliffs, and it was too far away to necessarily alert. It wasn't really an issue for the kayaker at the time. And simultaneously, while I actually submitted that report, I got a message from a news reporter from Channel 10 who actually asked me if I heard of the shark attack that had took place at Normanville. And from that moment there, I knew straight away that this white shark had unfortunately had a serious interaction with another human being, with a fellow human being, and I was immediately shocked. I knew that the word that she used, being attack, I thought that there'd definitely been a fatality, but fortunately for the young girl at the time, she wasn't harmed. She only suffered a minor graze. The shark flung her from her kayak. Obviously, just very curious white shark, and it turns out that family actually followed Sharkwatch as well. So, that's where there's so much onus and responsibilities as well on my shoulders, where I actually have to put forward reliable shark sightings because it can potentially save a life in those very rare circumstances if it ever does eventuate again. All right, Claire. So the siren was sounded at Tennyson yesterday, and so many people didn't get out of the water. Do you advocate we should leave the water if we hear the siren? Love your page. We always check when. Okay. Yes. Yes, Claire. 100%. Whenever the shark siren goes off on the shark plane, the advice is to leave the water. Under all, at all costs, the advice is to leave the water. Now, the shark spotter plane will see the shark, but it can't relay the information of what species it is, how big the shark is. It can't tell you that there's only there's a 2 meter hammerhead that's 50 meters offshore. And I use a hammerhead as an example because these are extremely docile, harmless sharks, as opposed to it being a 4 meter great white that's 10 meters off the end of Largs Bay Jetty in waist deep water. The advice is always to leave the water immediately and wait for further confirmation from authorities. The government fixed-wing plane that is operating is in affiliation. They will call SAPOL to confirm if whether or not a patrol needs to be sent out to actually alert beachgoers. This may take a few minutes. This may take half an hour. So it's important just leave the water at the time. A shark has definitely been seen in the area. The other thing I will mention is that the shark plane, the siren sounds like a police siren. There's been many occasions where I've been at the beach where I've thought that the shark siren is actually a police car that's going down on the Esplanade. If the shark plane is circling around, have a listen, and if there's a siren that's going that sounds like a police siren, it's letting you guys know to leave the water. Yeah. Yeah, good call, Zoe. Yeah. We'll move on now. I think it's important that we move on. Did anyone have any more questions? All right. So we'll move on to perhaps the most important thing of all. Any shark info on KI, King's Coat site, is heading there tomorrow. No, unfortunately not, Sammy, and have a safe and blessed trip. I haven't heard anything out of Kingscote, and can I just say this as well? If we think about the coverage in down on Kingscote in terms of Shark Watch followers and members of the public down there, there's obviously it's not as populated. These are rural coastal parts of KI and whatnot, where this is where Shark Watch can become really unreliable in terms of getting information down there and sighting sharks down there. Simply the fact that because of the fact that we don't have the resources down there. There's no shark spotter plane, and there's not a lot of a real generally large population of white the public that goes down there. Why do you think we haven't had a fatal shark attack since 2014? Dan Wisdom. There was a fatality in 2020 at Mount Gambier, towards Mount Gambier Way. I can't remember exactly what location that beach was. But look, the simple fact is, Dan, I think it's quite obvious, why we haven't seen these attacks, and that's because sharks obviously don't see humans as predatory items, and that's the raw nature of sharks. You're welcome, Sammy. That's the raw nature of sharks. We just don't. They're so unpredictable. White sharks in particular, they are such a formidable apex predator, but at the same time, there's a level of respect that they also, that we can see they take around humans as well, where they tend to avoid us. And I've had so many reports come through on Shark Watch where white sharks, great whites, have been around swimmers unknowingly, and this is around our local beaches, and yet there hasn't been an incident that's taken place without the swimmers even knowing that the shark's there. So this is a clear sign that sharks don't see us as predatory items, which is something we all, any logical human being now understands. And that's the few rare incidents that do take place with humans are in fact the mistaken identity, or the fact that a shark is the great white is a wild animal, and that we have to respect this, and it does occasionally just fall into that predatory state and continue those devastating injuries on the human that's been attacked. Port Mac. Yeah, thanks, Zoe. I think so. Yeah, thanks, Jade. Now, let's get into probably the most important part of this talk. We've been going for 40 minutes now, guys, so I really hope I'm not boring you or whatnot. Please let me know if I am, so there's anything I can improve on with this chat, anything with the surroundings and whatnot. Here he is, Peter. I was expecting you. Not true. Biscuit Rider was killed off West Beach by two great whites. Yeah, that's correct, mate. Yep. So that's one of those rare incidences I was talking about, Pete. In 2004, that was Nick Peterson, who was scurfing. So unfortunately, the story that surrounds that particular incident is that it was dolphin pupping season. That shark had been sighted in the area days prior. And unfortunately, he's just grabbed Nick by his side as he's coming up onto the boat, and unfortunately, he's fulfilled the predatory instinct that the white shark has. And unfortunately, I don't believe they recovered Nick's body, which is very sad. But indeed, but it's just. These are the risks that we all take, and again, it just shows that it's the unpredictable nature of it. Dan, from what I believe, it wasn't actually two sharks. It was actually because the shark was so big. It was a 4 to 4.5, maybe even 5 meter shark that potentially took Nick. The two fins, from as the story goes, the two fins actually. The two fins made the guys on the boat actually think that it was two sharks when it was actually just the one shark, and it could have been the length between the dorsal fin and the actual caudal fin, its tail fin. So yeah, around this time of the year, guys, I think the most important thing, yeah, that's correct, Dan. Yeah, so the most important thing of all regarding this talk, and the reason, perhaps the most important reason why I'm here delivering this speech, is because things on Shark Watch around this time of the year tend to start getting really predictable. We have around late November, getting into December, there will be a period of days, and I can definitely document. I have this documented with the sighting year after year. I documented this from around 2016 right up to 2018, 2019. It would the general observation is that the bronzies will start migrating into the Gulf around late November into December, and they will occupy certain beaches all around the metropolitan Gulf. They'll be right around the Gulf. We believe that the bronze whaler has nursery grounds around the Gulf here in St. Vincent locally, where they'll go and berth. And particularly around the upper Spencer Gulf region as well. Bronzies will tend to congregate anywhere along our metropolitan coastline, and there's been a distinct few locations over the past few years along the coast where they will tend to just hang around for sort of days, weeks, even months at a time. Very predictable. You expect those reports to come through from the shark spotter plane, and they are places like Grange and Henley Beach. These large bronzies, large females, generally pregnant females as well, up to the 3 to 3.5 meters in length, will just go around the Grange and Tennyson and Henley area, and they will just hang around those local beaches, generally occupying that area of the coast. Other places where they're quite common include Largs Bay and Semaphore, Aldinga Beach, Normanville, Lady Bay, right up through the mid-coast, through the Fleurieu Peninsula, very predictable to see a bronzy any time around this time of the year. The spotter plane is always going to see these large bronzies hanging around. Yeah. Yes, mine too as well, Peter. Um, and as well, um, they tend to just sort of stick around, and they'll be around the same sort of area occupying the Gulf. And they'll school. Sometimes there'll be two of them, sometimes three or four of them. Other times there'll be dozens of them, 10 to 15 to 20 of them. Particularly around the south coast, we see these massive congregations of them. You folks would have seen the other night that there was Luke Stevens who came on and sent his fascinating photos of the school of hundreds of bronzies off KI around that particular area. So bronzies are always going to be sighted in numbers around this time of the year. As I always say with Sharkwatch, with the Sharkwatch motto, be aware but not alarmed. Do not be alarmed. Just stay out of their way, particularly if there's salmon schools around, and just avoid them. I mean, they just tend to mind their own business. They really don't care about human activity around them, but just stay away from them. Better be safe than sorry. The great whites, so the white shark, they're always going to be sighted. Seasonally, they'll always be around the Gulf here. No matter if it's winter, no matter if it's summer, the white shark will always be out there. In terms of the sizes that I'm seeing of the white shark, very common to see subadults. Sometimes we'll see the larger ones up to 4 meters. In rare occasions, once a summer or so, once every summer season, a boater might see a big 4.5 meter to 5 cruising around here locally. So look, I think it's great because it gives us an indication of exactly what sharks are, what sizes and what species are hanging around and what species are so prevalent. Another species that we see coming into late summer is the hammerhead. Now the smooth hammerhead will pop up, again, a very predictable in terms of shark sightings that I get. They'll pop up anywhere from late December right up through till late March into April even. They seem to be, they appear to almost be migratory with their observations. So they'll come into the Gulf waters and they'll be basking their beautiful olive-coloured skin on the surface, and they'll just sit there on the surface. Hammerheads are a very shy and docile shark, and they will avoid us at all costs. If we're around them, they will tend to move away. And again, if you do see one, the advice I'm always going to give you guys is pretty straightforward. Just stay out of their way and just avoid them, regardless of what you think, of how harmless you think they may be. It's also not about provoking them. Dan, I haven't personally, in my time managing Sharkwatch, received a sighting out of Lake Alexandrine or the River Murray. I have at the mouth. So there was one particular sighting I can remember from the mouth as well, where there were up to 7 great whites congregating around each other at one time from the aerial patrol around the mouth there. So that's a pretty fascinating insight there for you. Look, in terms of other species of sharks, it's been great to report on the blue shark in my time running Sharkwatch. I've been able to report on the shortfin mako. These are very rare sightings that I very rarely get to report on, and when I do, it's always amazing to hear about. It's always amazing to see a different species of shark. There was one under Tumby Bay Jetty recently, which was a broad nose. I believe it was a 7-gill shark, which was pretty awesome to see. Thresher shark. I believe I've had a photo of a thresher shark, and potentially also a poor beagle shark, which is the family of the Lamnidae, which is related to the great white as well, the white shark. Does anyone have any questions regarding seasonal observations with sharks in terms of what I've seen myself on Sharkwatch? Yeah, doesn't surprise me at all. And you would know, Pete, that the mako shark is down there, and in those waters, it's a they're pelagic, pelagic. I think that's the way you call it. They're oceanic sharks roaming around the shelf, and sometimes will come into those bays. Are you finding numbers increasing these days? Look, Sharon, it's another good question. It's not something that I can actually answer. In terms of shark sightings on Sharkwatch, they'll always differ and always change in terms of the numbers that are being reported to me. What I can say is that sorry about that. What I can say is that there's a lot of inconsistencies with anything to do with reporting on social media, and particularly Sharkwatch, especially after what's happened over the past year, where I've been cut off from the original Sharkwatch page and had to start fresh. So the majority of that traffic that's on the 150,000 Sharkwatch, the old page, are going to be reporting sightings to that page, and I won't even be able to see it. So you'd imagine that if I was still on that page, I would be reporting on more sightings coming through, especially as we're growing to that 150,000, and the user base and the people who are actually spotting sharks are growing in number themselves. That's actually a good question you could ask. You could ask Purser Fishwatch, Sharon. Anton, if you have 5 to 7 days and want to go commercial shark fishing, thank you very much, Peter. I really appreciate the offer. It would be fantastic to sort of see the insight that they have as well. So I appreciate the offer. We will be in touch as well. What happened to your original page? Yeah, so the original Sharkwatch page was held for ransom last year. I was hacked. I was deceived by a conniving hacker, and he managed to hack his way into Sharkwatch, try and scam all of the 150,000 of my what I like to call family members on that page, and because of that, Facebook had to take evasive action and shut down that page, and so I lost all connection administratively from that page as a moderator. And so I had to start again and start this new Sharkwatch South Australia page. Have I eaten wobbegong? Steve, I haven't eaten wobbegong, mate. I don't intend on eating any species of shark. Thank you. And watch what you're eating if you don't want to eat shark, guys. If you go to any fish and chip shop, always ask what fish they're serving on their menu, even though they probably don't even know themselves what they're serving you. I live in Selix and really appreciate what you do. Thank you very much, Sharon, and I appreciate you and your support as well. Yeah, it means a lot. I'm at Selix Beach quite a bit. We're going to get into the talk now. Yeah. Yeah, so you're a real advocate for that. I've noticed as well, Jade. You've been a long time follower, so it's good to hear from you tonight as well. So with the community interactions, again, this is something that this is definitely a fun part that I like to talk about. There are now classic Sharkwatch comments that we can all refer to. Can anyone guess what the classic Sharkwatch comments are on all of the posts that really do grind my gears? Can anyone put in the comments section what are the comments that will tend to grind my gears that you see on Sharkwatch? I'm just waiting here because again, it's so predictable. Yeah. 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 Yeah, a shark in the water. Who would have thought? Well, if I had $1 for every time someone said that on Sharkwatch, I'll tell you what, I'll be well off, because that comment is, yeah, wow, a shark in the ocean. Absolutely. No joke. Yeah, so, look, I'm not going to be a smart aleck, but at the end of the day, I understand where people are coming from. Yeah, bait and location's another common one, and that's one that really tends to grind my gears. Yep, wow, sharks in the water. Who would have guessed? Yes, yes, Zoe. Um, yeah, Matt, Steve. Yes, yep, Steve. That is a particular comment that grinds my gears a lot. It's anglers getting ready to gear up and go out. And at the end of the day, look, we understand that sharks are out in the ocean, but as I said at the start of this presentation, we live in such an expansive. We live where the Gulf is such an expansive body of water, and we just don't know how many species of sharks are out there, how many great whites are out there, how many bronzies are out there at any one time, how many bronzies are at one location, how many great whites are at one location at one time. These are questions that having that community outreach really does help us clarify where a particular shark is at any one time, and it's being on a real-time basis where that's when it really becomes more effective shark watch. If it's a report that's a day late, sure, the shark might still be in the area, but it then essentially becomes valid, because if we think about how fast sharks typically move at an average speed, we can then rule out, if the shark's traveling in if it's just cruising by, it's then, 30, 50 k's down the coast elsewhere, maybe more. Another observation I've picked up myself is that the dorsal reports that come through are highly effective in the engagement. Credit to the creators of Dorsal, Alan Benetto, who teamed up with me in early 2016 and wanted to get his app on the market. It became so effective in getting the community engaged. When you see that Shark Watch report with a giant dorsal fin on there, no matter what species of shark it is, people automatically just tend to freak out a bit. And the reality is we need to let logic set in at all times instead of emotion, and think about what sort of effect our comments are going to have, because a lot of the time when it's a 3-meter bronzy compared to a 3-meter white shark that's being sighted, there's still going to be a lot of hype that's generated, and then it almost starts this sort of chain reaction. And I'm not going to lie, as an administrator and as a human being, a normal human being, I do tend to get caught up in these emotions when people give me a call on the phone and they're freaking out and they're saying, "Man, I've just had a 5-meter great white circle my boat." Oh, really, man? And then I start getting amped up from it. That's when I now have to draw the line in the sand and become more professional, and I actually do now scale the sizes down. If it's a 5-meter shark, it really is a 4-meter shark, and that's what you'll see from now on Shark Watch. And it's important that we don't let our emotions overtake us to the point where an irrelevant shark sighting or something that becomes more or less more beneficial for an observatory point of view isn't overtaking it as a fearful point of view as well, in terms of what reports come through. I'm just reading through your comments now, guys. I love knowing there was a great white at the end of my street, and the report could have really saved us for sure. Yeah, that's true, Betty. As a matter of fact, it's really funny how Dorsal uses Google Maps, and I just sort of seem to, without any financial merit, will just promote businesses on the Dorsal app, where Google Maps will show up, and all of a sudden you have the local fish and chip shop being advertised with a dorsal fin at the end of the street, and at the end of your houses. So I know how everyone finds it funny, especially those who are lucky enough to live right on the coast, and you're at the end of the street and there's a dorsal fin on Shark Watch from a dorsal report that's come up. For me, it brings awareness and respect for sharks, knowing what shark species are out there. Absolutely, and that's where the whole idea stemmed from, Zoe. That's where I came up with the idea, and it was that intrigue and that mystery of how dangerous are sharks. Are they really a problem out here? And and is there anything that we can do about it, if there is? I'm just up to your comment now, Pete. Bear with me, guys. I'm just sort of slowly scrolling down this comments feed. It's a great thing, this page, Anton. More eyes, better technology, face more sightings, and it does prevent shark attacks. So credit to you, just with surfers would get a reality check. Most have never seen a big shark. That is true, and I find that, Pete, with surfers, a lot of them actually won't even report shark sightings to Sharkwatch, which, for that reason, I respect them as well. I understand that they have that relationship of coexistence with sharks, which is a beautiful thing, and they'll tend to avoid Sharkwatch, which fair enough to them. Would the ban on snapper fishing contribute to more sharks coming into the Gulf? That's a really good question, Rory. I'm not actually too sure on that one, and it would actually be interesting to know as to how effective the snapper ban has been in itself. I would say, look, the sharks have such a diverse diet, particularly the bronzies, and they won't just go after the fish; they'll go after the smooth rays, the eagle rays that you see as well, and there's schools of other fish, the Australian salmon that's congregate around the coast too. But that's another great question though. Of course. All right, guys. So we've gone into an hour now. So that's pretty much it in terms of everything that I've noticed. Did anyone have any other questions I would like to ask? Still got a few minutes that I can definitely stick around and answer a few more questions. I would just like to say as well, as part of closing commentary, that in terms of where we see Sharkwatch going, it really depends on how much time and effort spent into it. I'd appreciate it if everyone would, or a handful of people would donate to Sharkwatch, even chip in a few dollars. But even if you don't, Sharkwatch is always something that will be evolving. It might just be evolving at a slower rate. I'd more so be looking forward to being with drone operators and getting drones up at remote parts of the Fleurieu Peninsula, and even on KI or Port Lincoln or wherever there is that there isn't shark patrol, aerial patrols operating, and obviously where it can be a threat for drones to impede. Thanks, Rory. I really appreciate it, mate. Thank you, Sharon. So, yeah, in terms of its development, it would be honestly so good to have the Shark Patrol plane on board itself, and to even be working with Surf Life Saving. But these are all things that eventuate over time, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the guys at Surf Life Saving, for the guys and girls at Surf Life Saving, rather, for everyone who's put into the government Shark Patrol project. And I do think that there definitely needs to be an outreach and a collaboration with what I do with Sharkwatch, because we have a community here who are so passionate about shark sightings, and 5 or 10,000 people having that on board just right now is amazing, because it already brings out a lot of reach really quickly. We're able to sight sharks, and the community is able to be alerted. Yeah, thanks for letting me know, Matt. And unfortunately, there's shark anglers on most jetties most nights, which is very sad to hear. Which is very sad to hear about. As well, I've just lost my train of thought. But it would be great to obviously have these aerial patrols on board, and I think it's great that we have such a big community that's growing every summer here. Do not be fearful of what you see on Sharkwatch, and don't count it as hysteria. Me, myself, my relationship with the media, I don't actually work with the media. They decide that they're going to come on Sharkwatch and take whatever videos they can, take whatever photos and bring it forth with their own agenda. Whatever agenda they're pushing forward on these media stations has got nothing to do with Sharkwatch in the direction that I'm trying to promote in terms of conservation and awareness and education. I myself am fascinated with sharks. We're all fascinated with sharks on this page. This is a joint community project, and I'll always keep it that way, as a uniquely community project. But if we can have that hierarchy come forth and put forwards a more professional, structured way of running this organisation and getting information out there on a timely scale, in a way that's going to promote tourism and not take away from tourism, and also benefit the conservation of sharks and tourism in South Australia, I think that's the way to go. Thank you so much, Zoe. Yes, it would be great to have that page back, absolutely. Well, that doesn't surprise me, Matt. As well, just on another closing note, I want to, actually put forward my own agenda as well. So on the side of Sharkwatch, long term, I'd actually like to start my own ecotourism business for adventure kayaking. I'm an adventure kayaking, I'd like to say, enthusiast. So I spend a lot of time doing adventure kayaking on the water whenever the weather permits. On a nice sunny day, I'll do 20 to 30 k's in a leg or so, just cruising up and down the coast. And I think, wow, I think to myself, this state has so much potential in terms of tourism. We can take, domestic and international tourists on snorkeling or kayaking safaris on a more regular basis at these unique coastal locations, and yet there's only one or two businesses that I see here in South Australia doing it. So for me, that's my own personal endeavour that I'd like to take up, and it's to affiliate that with Sharkwatch, to get you guys yourself coming out with me, myself, and we partake in these tours on the water. Not necessarily, not going out to spot sharks, but to actually admire the beauty of the great creation that's around us. Thank you so much, Chad. I really appreciate that, mate. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing your name pop up more on the page as well. And on closing notes, guys, on closing notes, folks, that's it for me. It's been a pleasure being able to talk to you all, and being able to hear your questions and your feedback, and to hear your support. It's been so amazing. I wasn't sure with what sort of reception I was going to get tonight. So thank you so much. Stay in touch with Sharkwatch. The Sharkwatch number, all of my contact details are on the page, so feel free to give me a call at any time you like. If you have anything that you would like to ask, whether or not it's about sharks or something else, rather about my own story, you let me know, and call me anytime you like, contact me anytime you like, and get those shark sightings reported to Sharkwatch, please. I can't wait to see more of your photos and video. Take care. All of my love to you all. Bye.